All right, so we're joined by Dr. Rachael Curtis there with the Department of Biology at Jackson State University, fresh off another graduation at the great HBCU here in the capital city. We've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson. We're in the Education and Training Career Cluster, and we're recording this for all of our friends at Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So we appreciate you taking some time for us today, and I know you had some things you want to present and talk about, and I was explaining to them before we came on about how important it is, because no matter what you major in, if you go to a community college or you go to a four-year university like Jackson State right out of high school, you're going to be taking a biology class. So it's really cool how you got into it, and really cool how you showed that the need for your course goes into every major.
Yes. It absolutely does, because as I tell my students, before you can learn about anything, you have to learn about yourself first, right? We have to know how our bodies think, and we also have to understand how to treat the environment. I think that, on a more spiritual level, that biology is definitely necessary, because we live in an environment full of things. So plants and animals and insects, all of those things are necessary to sustain life. So biology is the most important course. That's why it's always a requirement for every major. So.
Yeah, and if you don't have it at Jackson State, you would have it at the community college that you chose to go to when you transferred. So at some point, if you plan on getting a degree in the state of Mississippi, you are going to have a biology class.
Absolutely, and I dare say around the world, biology is a core requirement for every degree, unless you're going into a technical field. So I'm not so sure that it's required for, per se, auto mechanics, but it's important nonetheless. So, yeah.
Now, did you have something you wanted to show us, or?
I do.
Okay.
Let me share my screen.
Oh, go ahead. We'd love to hear more about your background and your interesting path that you had to get to this, because I think it's pretty cool.
I know, I'm pretty cool. You know that. I love my students, and they think I'm cool too. So can we see all of this?
I can.
Okay, good. So I just put together a small introductory presentation called A Peek into the Sideline. So this will basically talk about different paths and career paths that you can take in the field of biology, and then I'll talk some about my personal struggles and triumphs here. So, all right. So I'll first begin talking about biology, and everybody knows that it's the study of life. But when we think about biology, we always think about bench science or medical fields, but it's so much more than that. So it's defined as the study and analysis of the biotic factors. Those are living entities. And that's divided into several small specialized fields. So we study anything from biochemical aspects, so molecules, proteins, the cellular level, all the way up to the biosphere, so the ecosystem community. So this encompasses so much more than just what you see basically in dental school and medical school. So biology is a huge field, huge field. So this is just a chart that gives some small examples of subfields of biology. So we have ecology, that's the study of the ecosystems from the different environmental systems there. So the plants, the water, the soil, all of that. Molecular biology, which is my personal favorite. And then, of course, the science of medicine. So I like to describe myself as the doctor who teaches doctors, because they learn all about the foundations of cells and all of the machinery variants of the organelles.
Yeah, and not to cut you off here, but and you put on there about agriculture and forestry, and we have a lot of students interested in those fields. And I don't want to talk too much about the rival to the southwest of Jackson State, but we have a lot of students that want to go there because they want to get into agriculture. But that's going to take a biology a course or two or three. Also, if you want to go to Mississippi State in that same area, it's going. These great agriculture programs in Mississippi have a biology base before you get into the agriculture part of it. So I think that's a great point.
And I'm so glad that you're teaching your students that, because I have come across many scientists who were farmers who didn't even realize that they were scientists. So let's be clear, we're all scientists in some way, shape, or mean. we employ the scientific method on a daily. So if my light bulb went out, I began to question why the light bulb went out, and then I began to experiment. Or maybe the plug is bad, or maybe the lamp is bad, or maybe the bulb itself. I just know that the light went out. And so then I conduct experimentation to try to see what happens. All of this is part of the scientific method, and we don't realize it. So we're all scientists by nature. But in terms of agriculture, because that's huge here in the state of Mississippi, yes, I have a really good friend who graduated from my PhD program, and her dad is a soybean farmer. And when I tell you he is the best plant physiologist without a degree, right? Because he has to know about plants. He has to know what, what nutrients to provide to make his harvest the best one. So definitely they would have to go through a general biology series of courses and botany and all of that. So agriculture is a big one.
Yeah, and earlier in the year, we had a soil analyst in California who has a degree in agriculture, but he says, I'm a scientist every day by analyzing soil for the USDA.
Yeah, he absolutely is. So we all are. And again, this chart that you see here, this is just a small fraction of biological disciplines. It is huge. It's definitely huge. So the next slide just gives a small example of careers and how long it would take to ultimately obtain that terminal degree in those fields. So of course, we know the most common. Everybody comes to school and they want to become a medical doctor. I want to be an OBGYN, or I want to be a pathologist. At minimum, without residency, that's 8 years. And then a veterinarian, 8 years as well. Dentist, 8 years. Physical therapist, 7 years. And then, like myself, a scientist researcher, which will, of course, strongly focus on here, 6 to 8 years, the same as a professor or a teacher. That one is 4 to 6 years, and I'll tell you why shortly. Physician assistant, which I don't know why this is not a popular career path, because to be a physician assistant is just like being a medical doctor. They make a ton of difference in people's lives, and they get paid very good. And then also a nurse. So I put nurse at the bottom because the field of nursing, of course, is a scientific discipline, but they take a separate route. It's more clinical and hands-on. And also, you don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree in biology to be a nurse. You would do the prerequisites and then finish nursing school. And of course, those pictures are just some examples of what you can do, small examples of what you can do as a biologist. The field biologist looks like they may be testing either plant or soil samples right there. And then, of course, this is likely below a microbiologist or a cell biologist or a histologist. So again, biology is a huge umbrella that encompasses so many different disciplines. And why biology? Of course, as I previously said, biology helps us understand ourselves. We know how we're made up. One of the first things I like to do with my non-majors on our human systems chapter, which is a bonus chapter because it's not in the book. It's something that I make them know. Before you get out of here, you're going to know about yourself. So I draw a little stick figure on the board, and I have them fill in all the organ systems of the body. And there are 11 of them, and they always come up with half a person. So it's so important that we understand ourselves. And then also it helps us understand and appreciate the environment. It helps us understand animals and not be so harsh towards them. And it also helps us to understand and develop an appreciation and a willingness to preserve the environment that God gave us. And then also you, of course, develop a better understanding of different diseases, the pathogenesis of those diseases, and then how to treat it. So I am always the person that my family calls on. You know, they're like, she's the doctor. And I'm like, well, I'm not an MD. I have a PhD. They're like, well, you got a background in science. And so you're able to know what your medical doctor is talking about. And then, of course, it invokes great change in the world because we do a lot of bench science, and bench science is the foundation of so much. So you wouldn't be able to have, per se, a pain reliever without bench scientists having studied that. So the world is highly dependent upon science and in particular biology.
Yeah, and then especially you talk about, Mississippi also there's a big push in manufacturing. But the environmental requirements for manufacturing keeps changing every year. So you need some sort of scientific background, or you need scientists within the manufacturing company to make sure you are staying within EPA regulations, because that can mean not only tons of money, it can cost, it can be people's health.
Right, absolutely. And that has been a historical issue, in particular involving communities that are underserved and underrepresented, have economic challenges. So, for example, in North Carolina in the 60s, there was a lot of dumping there. And actually, I'll tell you where the Palisades or the University Point is at Jackson State, that was a Superfund site, meaning it was a large amount of trash and radioactive materials that were deposited there that leaked into the water table, and we consume the water. So, again, all of these things have to be tested through the work of the scientists. So we're pretty important. We're pretty important. So let's talk about salaries, because I know that your students want to know about the money, because that is the motivation, which shouldn't always be first, but it definitely helps. So the average range from and of course this changes year by year, but the average range by my research for those who hold a bachelor and or master's degree in biology is $53,000 to $94,000. And you and I both know that varies, and especially in the state of Mississippi. We tend to make a little less in the South, but we also make such a huge impact here. The range for those who hold a doctoral degree in this, a doctor of philosophy, is $63,000 to $114,000. And look at the big jump. Those who have a degree, medical doctor degree, is $182,000 to $245,000. Again, this is just a ballpark range. But when we think about the big impact, specifically for those who have a PhD and an MD, I mean, we make so much change in the world. I would like to see my salary a little bit higher, but I'll get there. I'll get there. And I will say what I have done in terms of changing lives, and having students that trust me and care about me. I'm never going to be without a baby, right? So, money cannot buy that. And I'm sure the same about you, coach, because your children love you. So this is the salary here. Nice money. All right, so let's talk a bit about my story. So I am not originally from the state of Mississippi. I'm from Southern Illinois, a small town called Alton, right outside East St. Louis. And I moved around quite a lot. So my mother got married, or remarried, and we moved from Alton, Illinois to Kansas City, Missouri, to Seattle, Washington, and they decided they wanted to retire in the state of Mississippi, so we moved here. And if you can imagine moving from the state of Washington, which was #1 in the Union, to moving from Mississippi, I was pretty far ahead. I was pretty far advanced. So I got a little bored once I got here, and I became a teen mother at the age of 17. My daughter is now 21, and she is just excelling. She is in her first year of nursing school. She's a junior at Alcorn, but this is her first year of nursing school. And she has had the opportunity to travel internationally and present her research. And one thing about it is that I was determined that just because I was a teen mother, that I was still not going to be another statistic. So kudos to my very own mom. She pushed me through that. So I became a teen mother at 17. I skipped a grade, so I was supposed to graduate in 2003, but I skipped a grade, graduated in 2002 as valedictorian of Bailey Magnet School. I then left for a year or two on a full scholarship to Concordia College in Selma, Alabama, which was, we'll have to talk about that separate, coach, but I eventually transferred back to Jackson State in 2004. But, I hadn't seen the last of my troubles because I then got in a very serious relationship and I had two more children who were now 14 and 15. So it took me from 2004 to 2011 to finish my degree. When I had my last baby, and I really hope to reach someone who is in that same space. If you know anybody, please send them to me. Because you get in a space where I'm just gonna work. I'm gonna provide for my children. I'm gonna play around, and every scholar or every human has that moment. And so between 2004 and 2011 was mine. So my last baby, Jordan, he was born in 2009, and as soon as I got home from the hospital, I said, no more. I said, I'm finished this year, and that is what I did. I had about a year and a half left, and I finished all of my courses, and I eventually graduated with a magna cum laude from Jackson State in 2011. So after that, the chair of the biology department, Dr. Pagoni, was on my tail, rest his soul. He was like, you cannot not go to school. So I didn't know what I was going to do. In my head, I was like, okay, I could just start studying for the PCAT and go to pharmacy school, which was my initial plan. But I was so afraid to leave state without, because I wanted to go to Xavier. I was so afraid to leave state without the support. I said, I can't leave my children with my mother. She can't handle them three, and I'm gonna go nuts trying to work and go to school with three small children. So I decided to enter the Master's of Science in Biology program. I had no idea that it was a research component. It was just a meantime, in between time for me. And when I got into this program and I got introduced to research, I just fell in love with it. I am what you call an extroverted introvert. So, I like to be to myself a lot. And so when I got into the lab, I was able to sit and think. I was culturing my cells and doing my calculations. And so it gave me time to myself. And it gave me a lot of time to think. And it just became a niche for me. And so I completed that program with a 3.85 GPA. And I was like, there is no doubt I'm not going to pharmacy school. I'm going to stay right here and I'm going to get in this PhD program. I did that PhD program in 4 years with a lot more issues. My mother developed breast cancer. I was taking care of her. I was trying to stay home from school, and she was like, "No, ma'am, go to class. I'll be here when you get back." And she's still here. So, I finished that, the top of my class. I was class marshal, 4.0 GPA. I have children in activities from soccer to basketball to violin. I was running every single day of the week. But I did it. I did it for them. And so upon completion of my PhD in 2018, I was like snatched immediately. I finished in December, and in December, my current boss was like, please come work this lab for me. I really need you. Nobody else knows this lab like you. You work well with me, you do this. And so I have been the laboratory technician in the molecular and cellular biology facility ever since. I also instruct numerous biology courses, Introduction to Biological Sciences, General Biology 1 and 2, of course, both lectures and labs. I have instructed microbiology at a different institution. I have instructed cell biology. So I've been quite a busy bee since the completion of my PhD, but not nearly busy enough because I'm trying to work on multiple publications here and just really focusing on moving up the ladder at this point. So that's my story, but it's to be continued because I'm still such a multifaceted individual.
I agree.
So this is just a picture of me. I got on stage and kind of showed out just a little bit during my PhD graduation because it's been a long journey for me. I have to sit and think sometimes, like, you know, I really did that, with 3 children by myself. Let's be clear about that. And when people are like, I'm in awe, I'm like, because I never feel like I'm doing enough. But when I sit and really ponder and meditate on that, I know that I am a good inspiration for little Black and brown girls who look like me, who feel like, I messed up so bad, I can't go forward. You can, with the determination and tenacity. Once you get it in your head and in your heart, there is no stopping. There's no stopping. And I'm still not gonna stop. So that's what I got in terms of my personal background and just a small introduction to biology. I'm going to stop my share really quickly if I can. My computer's a little slow. And I'll answer any questions you have.
Well, I had a few things that I wanted to ask about. You talk about being a laboratory technician.
Yes.
Before we get into the actual courses, talk about what that person does, because that's a career that somebody might be interested in that they may not have known about.
Okay. So in terms of a laboratory technician, there are multiple things that I'm responsible for. Number one, I maintain the laboratory space. So I order supplies, I order chemicals. I make sure that all of the equipment is functioning correctly. So I have to know how to use each piece of equipment just to make sure that everything's functioning right. I also help other investigators with their assays. So if you need to know how to use, per se, the epifluorescence microscope, I'm the person to come see. So basically, I'm like the troubleshooter. What else does my job encompass? I'd say the availability is a lot because, I have to be there for when they're around the clock experiments. So, of course, I'm not coming in at 2 a.m. anymore. I used to do that, but I don't. I have to make sure that they have access to the facility. So that's the major part, is making sure that all of the equipment is up and functioning and being familiar with different scientific assays. So that requires me to stay in the literature, stay in PubMed, and know what's happening. Okay, so in chemistry, they are needing to freeze dry their nanoparticles. So I need to know what organic solvents they're using. I need to know how long that process will take. So yeah, that is the majority of it, is just staying ahead and staying in the know about these different scientific assays.
Yeah, and it's cool because you get to be a lab rat, but you get to be around students and helping with the education of students, because you have a variety of scientific majors at any university, not just at Jackson State. Now, one thing you did talk about that I think we need to get a little bit more clarification on, especially for these 9th graders, is obviously a lot of them are in biology or human A&P or intro to biology now, and there is a little bit of lab thing involved, but it's a little bit different from high school and college. So talk a little bit about when, even if you're a non-major, you're going to have a science course with a lab, whether that be for your major or, just part of the general university or general community college curriculum. So talk a little bit about how that works, because I don't think a lot of people understand that until they actually get there, and then they're shocked.
Right. So there should be no shock because, biology is also a requirement for all high schools, as you said.
Yeah.
And so it's no different at the university level or even the college level. If you're doing a 2-year degree, you have to take some kind of general science, most often biology, in order to obtain that degree. But there is, of course, a difference in the structure of the course, because in high school it may be a little bit more watered down.
Yeah.
Because it's high school. When you get to college, you're a big person. So it's a lot more discipline. So for my non-majors, because I teach 101 and it's very different from general biology. So I even use a different text so that we could, it could be better clarified. My 101s, I use extra supplements because they're not going to middle school, right? And I would say I give them a tiny bit more grace. I come to find out that, those are the students who are flooding my office more than my general biology students, because when they first get in there, they are super afraid. I mean, a lot of them they're like, I just want to pass this class. So, I don't go into great detail with them. So if they're considering the field outside of STEM, then they take introduction to or a general introduction to biology course. And, it's very surface. You tap the surface of a lot of concepts. You don't go deep into ecology. You don't go deep into gene expression. You just kind of tap the surface so that they know. But again, I'm going back to my original thesis. It is so important that it's the most important class you're going to take. The most important, because if you don't know about you, you don't know what's going on, then how can you focus in history? How can you focus in art? You got to know what's going on with your own body. How am I made up? I'm feeling a little off. Let me see. Let's test these homeostasis, these properties of homeostasis. So we talk about a lot in that class. It's more relaxed than general biology. General biology is like, okay, you are going to enter the healthcare field. So you can't move on to medical school if you don't know about this cell, right? You cannot go to graduate school as a psychology major if you don't know about the endocrine system, which largely affects your nervous system and your brain function. So we talk a lot more in depth in general biology courses.
Yeah, and the scientific process applies to so many fields, even, and I know the great School of Business over there at Jackson State, a lot of business decisions are made like a scientific method. So you're learning how to think, think through problems. Now, obviously, you may not be a science person, but
Right.
learning how to think through problems, and I think that's a great task that
Right.
college professors have. And then and taking the general, and I think the same thing with the general business courses for the non-business majors. If somebody wants to get into in computer science, but they want to go to business for themselves, you have to have that little bit of knowledge of business, because you hear so many entrepreneurs talk about, I learned everything I need to know about my field, but nobody told me how to run a business. So
Right.
I think college professors, whether it be on the community college level or on the university level, really have a cool task of talking to those people that aren't in their teaching those people not in their major, because it gives you a variety of skills that are going to all translate into a great career in whatever major you decide.
Absolutely. And I dare say now, I love my biology majors, but I will say that I have had the most profound effect on those who are not majors. I have had two students in particular who have taken my Introduction to Biological Sciences course, and the very next semester they're in general biology in their political science major.
Wow.
I'm like, why are you back here? And they're like, because I needed another elective and I love you. And I'm like, well, you should just go ahead and change. And one of them did change. She did change her major. So yeah, she's like, I think this is pretty cool. So I'm like, so since you changed your major, let's talk about these programs you can get into. Because I forgot to mention, there are many programs specifically catered towards sciences of color. So the programs that I was introduced during my master's degree, I have not had to work. I have not had to work since I would say I worked the first year because I wasn't in the program, but I have not had to work because I've received a stipend ever since I've been in school, and that's just because I'm a Black scientist.
Wow.
So there are several programs that cater to increasing the rate of Black sciences in STEM fields.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. These are all ninth graders. This first one is Alexis Bailey. She wants to go into the medical field, but she asked, what is the hardest thing about taking college biology?
The hardest thing about taking college biology, I have a few ideas. I'm going to shoot them at you, Alexis. I would say number one, this is what I find. The hardest battle you will have is with yourself. The most difficult problem that I have with students is time management, because general biology is the most important class that you will take in this major because it lays the foundation for subsequent courses. So students will, and you have to have balance. I get that. You want to live a college life. You want to go sit out in the plaza and talk with your friends and go to parties, and all of that is great, right? But you gotta have your stuff together. My daughter always says, "Oh, I'm gonna just do what I need to do so I can do what I want to do," and that is the right approach. So time management, I have students who could have easily made A's and B's, right? But did not, because as I take my afternoon stroll through campus, it's assignments due tonight at 11:59, but you're out talking to boys on the plaza. So it's so important. I say that's the number one struggle that students face is finding balance. So creating a schedule and knowing, okay, I have this due on Sunday. I don't need to start it on Sunday. I need to do a little bit throughout the week, right? Pacing yourself, because time management is everything. If you're taking 15 hours, you got all of these courses, you need to make sure that you do a little bit of something every single day.
Absolutely.
But in terms of concepts, because I think she may have meant that, I find that students struggle with photosynthesis and cellular respiration, which are basically opposites of one another. Whenever we get to that, they are like deer in headlights. They're like, what did you just say? So those are chapters that I tend to have to water down even for my biology majors.
Yeah, I can see that. I struggle with those too. This is Caitlin Perry, and she asked, what inspired you to be interested in biology?
So growing up, my mama was like, "You're gonna be a judge. You're gonna be a judge because of your mouth." But I was like, I don't want to do all of that reading, and that's not, it doesn't spark my interest. And I really wanted to be a part of something that changed lives. Not saying that other fields don't, because they definitely do. I will be the first to say that art has saved my life. Art has saved my life. But growing up also in a house where my parents had a business, and one year they may make lower, and maybe the next year they may make $250,000. So, growing up in a house that was dependent on sales, I was like, I don't care. I never want to do this. I never want to do this. This isn't something that I'm gonna do. And I kept looking into careers in high school, and I still hadn't really made my mind up, but I knew I wasn't going into anything that had to deal with commission. So even as a lawyer, you have to be hired. It's still a form of commission. I was like,
people don't. That's a great point. People don't realize that.
yeah, if you're gonna be a lawyer, like, what if you don't get any clientele? You will be broke.
Yep.
So I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing something. They need me, right?
Yep.
So that's when I had a high school physics teacher. Her name was Jamaica Stuckey, and Dr. Stuckey, because she went to pharmacy school. I think she's at East maybe still, but she was the best science teacher I had ever. She was wonderful, and she was 23 years old.
Wow.
And she was teaching high school students, and I just had my baby, and she came to my house and helped me with my work and sat with me and my baby, and she said, "You should just go and go to pharmacy school. You'd be a great pharmacist." She's like, "I'm getting ready to go." And I was like, well, let me look at it. So I then became a pharmacy technician a few years after that. I was like, oh, this is it. I like this. And so that basically told me I belonged in that realm. But then I started, I had the children, and I decided I'm not going to go to pharmacy school. And I'm glad it worked out that way. I'm glad it worked out that way.
I just got two more. This is Jada Schaefer, and she asked, what are some of the everyday challenges you face while working?
Everyday challenges that I face while working. Of course, we all have our own personal challenges. So I find it hard to find balance, because first of all, even though I work, I'm a scientist, I'm a professor, I'm all of these things, my most important title is still mom. So having to find balance, having to make sure children are taken care of. I still take care of my mother. So having to make sure she's okay, that she goes to the doctor. So I sometimes I come last down the line. So I'll say the biggest challenge that I have in terms of life is finding balance, but I always find balance. I'm going to find some time for Rachel. But in terms of my career, I would say the biggest challenge that I have had is proving myself.
Yeah.
Because people see me, and at first I was the baby mama. They know I have 3 kids. But once they hear me talk, once they see what I'm capable of, once they see, dang, I make a C on this test, and she always makes A's. So I tend to show people there's reason I can tell them. Because there's a stereotype, she's the baby mom. She has 3 children. Yes. And that propels me to be an even better Rachel. And I still find myself doing that. Even with some colleagues. I come in here and I don't look like a scientist. I'm supposed to, maybe be in some messed up tennis shoes or, my hair ain't combed and I do have some days like that, especially during when I'm deep in a scientific acid. But when I come to work, I'm gonna come fancy wherever I come. And in the science world, they don't always take you seriously because you don't look like the typical lab rat. But again, they know how smart I am, so they're like, yeah. But I've had to kind of prove my worth a little bit.
Awesome. This is the last one from the students. This is Juliana King, and she asked, can you describe how you will provide extra support to a struggling student?
Oh my gosh. I can't call these people babies because they are adults. Let's be clear. Everybody's above 18. But I can have a 40-year-old student. I'm like, that's my baby. And I don't want to insult anybody, but they know the majority of my students, even when they're struggling and not doing what they're supposed to do, they know how I feel about them. I will first start by saying that being here at an HBCU is amazing because there are people who look like me and that are in the exact same struggle that I was in. There are people who bring their children to class. I'm just gonna bring the babies to campus. Sit her to the side, never come, right? There are students who don't have at home. So I've had my refrigerator invaded, I've had my snacks taken. When they come to me, they know that there's no judgment here. So, I think I said before, I'm never gonna be without, even if I didn't have children, I'm never gonna be without a child because and I think this, Coach, you'll report to students and really listen to them because all of their struggle is just not with your class. Their struggle may be that they haven't even had anything to eat today. Their struggle may be that they don't have no gas to get to class, so it goes beyond, academics. So if we're talking about academics and their struggle, if they don't reach out, then I don't know. Right? All I can do is look at the grades and encourage you to come see me. If you come, I love it, but I can't make anybody do anything. But when they come, we're gonna, number one, sit down and devise a plan to do better. What can we do? How can we change your schedule, right? How can we get it in your head that you need to do what you need to do before you do what you want? So we always talk about time management. I tend to kind of work ahead in my classes. So I like to give them, if it's a 3-hour weekly class, I like to give them self-care days. So, we can miss, especially if we're ahead, we can miss a day. We can miss one day in which you get caught up on your assignments. And if you're caught up on your assignments, you need to go and pray. You need to go meditate. You need to go take a long hot bath. So I stress self-care to them. Another way that I try to help them, I offer everything. So, I offer extra credit. Hey, let's do retool your school. Hey, let's go watch the Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks so you can learn about how cell lines were established. I'll offer you extra credit. So those are some things that I do. I try to show them that I really care about them because God knows I do. I love my students because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But before we go, I really want to hear why does not necessarily biology professors, but why do we need more young Black college professors? Because even at a HBCU, there's still a need for them. So why do we really need these young Black kids, especially, to really consider being a part of higher education?
Ooh, I have several points for that. Number one, it is representation. I also think that when students see that I look like them, you got 2 things that they're gonna do. Number one, some may try me because they don't think that I'm as old as I am, right? I'm like, I'm old enough to be a mom. So, you know, it's representation. And then most of them, when they get past that, they come to understand, oh my God, she's so cool. She can be all the things. They may see me at homecoming and they know that I can be A, B, or C, right? And so the representation is necessary. They see me and they see a Black girl who wears a lab coat. They see a Black girl who works with cancer on a regular. They see a Black girl who loves all things science. And that's just so important, because, you know, what we see in the media is not always so.
Absolutely.
And so it is definitely necessary to sprinkle the Black magic, you know, everywhere. And then in terms of academia, I think that students better understand when someone is on their level, not to discredit my colleagues who are older and who are, you know, of different races and ethnicities, but, you know, they need to see someone who looks like them, you know. It's a door there, and you just gotta knock it down. You gotta knock it down. And I think when they see that I have done so, that it can be an inspiration. It can be an inspiration. So.
Yeah, and that's incredible. I mean, and once you see something, you know, it's a lot easier to be something, but you can always be the first. And just because you're the first doesn't mean you can't be the best.
Absolutely. You're
So
sure.
Dr. Rachael Curtis at Jackson State, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye.